Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman, right here on W4CY Radio in the Positively Pipeman segment with the pet health guru. And he's here because he makes pets smile. So let's find out how you can make your pet smile, or when your pet's smiling, what is it all about? Take it away, Bill.
Hey, one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing today in the veterinary field and in the animal health field, and with our pets, particularly in a home situation, our dogs have got rotten mouths. I mean, bad breath, bad teeth, mild infections, things of this nature. Dental has become a major issue. Now, I can remember going back to my early days back in the early 1980s. I actually represented a company that sold dental equipment, the ultrasonic tooth cleaners and the polishers and all that your dentists use. But they were not being used in the animal industry for the simple fact that our animals were eating a more species-specific diet. And once we got over to the no mix formulations on pet foods, the carbohydrate based, all of a sudden the whole mouth started to rot, because dogs and cats do not produce amylase in their saliva to break down the sugars. So it sticks, causes tartar to build up, gum disease, all that sort of thing. And the part that was missed that we had prior to the 1980s that was taking care of it is, in order to get a dog to even eat a kibble-based food, we always had to mix in meat, whether it be canned meat or our own, leftovers from our own food or what mom cooked, whatever. And it was actually the meat enzymes that dissolved the tartar. And in fact, when we started to see this revolution come along with all the dental problems, our first our doggy dental toothpaste was meat enzymes. But if any of you out there have ever tried to brush an animal's teeth, it's impossible. We have to think. They don't brush their teeth in nature, do they?
I always wonder about that. These people that, they're doing all this stuff that their animals don't do in nature.
Yeah. If you start to follow the natural program, I actually had a discussion this past weekend with several people, and to be honest, I was ready to kill. I know I shouldn't say that. AI is going to pick that up now, but these people, have such a bad, incorrect knowledge of what pets should have, because they're not listening to Pet Health Guru. They're listening to people that are making stuff up to sell product.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether it's a trainer, whether it's a veterinarian, whether it's a dog sitter. It's just crazy, some of the things. I happened to be in this group. They were walking their dogs, and two of the bigger, older dogs were having trouble keeping up. Of course, it's Florida. It's warm out, that sort of thing. But they were walking because they want to walk and lose weight. So they're walking their dogs 2-3 miles at a time. And these dogs just couldn't do it. And I could see that they were actually going lame and hurting. And of course, I just can't let things go. And I just kind of jumped in and said, this is animal abuse.
Yeah.
You have to read your pet. And one of the people said, well, our dogs are getting fat because we don't exercise them enough. I said, wolves don't exercise. I've never seen one at, World Fitness. The only time they ever run, puppies might run playing a little bit, but once they're not puppies anymore, they're sedentary. They sleep most of the day. The only time that a wild canine would run is chasing food. And once they catch it, they're not running again. So,
yeah.
We have all kinds of little misnomers like this. And of course, the same thing with the food. If you feed a species-appropriate diet, dental problems don't show up. And, so much of it, again, is even on the human side, the whole dentistry thing is such a hoax. It's all about cosmetics. It's not about health.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that, your bones are rotting away because you don't have enough minerals in your system. And of course, the first place it shows up is in your mouth and in your teeth. And then it's like, oh, we have to do this, this, and this, thousands and thousands of dollars. So, to keep an animal's teeth clean, you got to feed that species appropriate diet. Dogs need those meat enzymes, and that'll keep them clean. And of course, the other thing is we can't keep injecting them up with all kinds of drugs and stuff, because that also depletes the minerals, which causes all the dental problems and the hip problems and the joint problems.
Yeah, totally. And I find it interesting when I talk to pet owners how much money they spend on going to the vet to get their dog's teeth cleaned.
It's gotten to be very, very big business. In fact, like I said, I used to sell dental equipment. I couldn't give it away to a veterinarian back in the early 80s until we got sued for practicing medicine without a license because we were selling it to groomers. And the funny thing is when they pressed the charges, they got thrown out immediately because it wasn't in the veterinary code. Until we changed that pet food formulation to exclude real meat and real meat enzymes, there were no dental problems. And of course, the next year, they obviously went through and changed all the veterinary codes to make it a veterinary-only practice, which meant the groomers that were doing it at that point in time were charging like $50 for a quick clean and polish. And of course, that immediately went to like $400. And now it's not unusual for them to be paying $600, $700, $800 for a cleaning. And of course, every time they go in to do a cleaning, they also find other work that's got to be done, extractions and everything else. Of course, we've talked about it on this show that, the medical position is let's remove body parts, including teeth.
Yeah.
And, that screws up the body even more.
No doubt.
It's just, it's one of those things that we're creating more problems than they were solving. And
yeah.
So it's a battle that way. Of course, now one of the dangers of most dentals, of course, is putting the animal under anesthesia. Basically, when you put a dog or a cat under anesthesia, there's a 25% chance that they will die on the table. And there is no anesthesiologist in the veterinary clinic. I can tell you that. And the other thing is now they're doing these so-called no anesthesia, gentle cleanings. They have just as many problems with those as they do anything else. You can't get the dog to, you can't irrigate it with the water hose and then tell them to spit. They just don't spit.
Yeah, right. Why don't they spit? Somebody needs to teach them how to spit.
I know.
Or better yet, when are they going to come up with the great idea that all dogs should have veneers?
Yeah. It's, the whole thing is too, one of the things that will keep a dog's and a cat's teeth clean, of course, is chewing on bones. One of the things that they do naturally, But if you listen to, again, the powers that be, do not give your dog bones. You might break a tooth. Well, I hate to tell you, if your dog breaks a tooth eating a bone, he's already calcium deficient. He's already mineral deficient. That's why a tooth is weak and it breaks off.
And the bones would help their teeth, wouldn't it?
Yes, because you've got the whole calcium complex, which is what the teeth are built on and what the jawbone is based on. And when you take that out, you cannot replace that bone. It's just the dog might choke on it. And we're afraid of that. Well, the dog can choke on water. Of course, the problem is when you give them something like that, like a natural bone, if they're feeding a commercial food, there's no meat in it. That bone is like giving him the best Delmonico steak that we could get, or the best tenderloin steak. So what do they try to do? They try to swallow it because they know they're not going to get any more. So that's where a problem sometimes lies. But the other interesting thing is if they try to swallow a bone that's too big, and I've seen this with cats as well, like with things like chicken necks and things like that, they have a mechanism in their body, in their throat, that they can get it out themselves. They're not going to suffocate. They literally will regurgitate it. The body knows exactly what to do.
That's
And I've
amazing.
witnessed this hundreds of times. We had one rescue that every time we get a rib bone, pork rib bone, would be fine with the first 3 or 4, and then the last one, he got to make sure I get it. I got to make sure I get it, so he would swallow it. And you always get it stuck, and then they're sitting there looking at you like, "Will you help me?" And it's like, "No, I'm not going to help you. Get it out yourself. You put it in there." And guess what? They always did.
Well, there
Didn't
you go.
die. Did not die.
What a concept, right?
Yeah.
Well, tell everybody how they can learn more about this and more when it comes to the health of their pets from the Pet Health Guru.
Well, you got to listen to the Pet Health Guru right here on this show, and also on the Pet Health Cafe, which is my weekly podcast, TV, video, whatever you want to call it, available on YouTube 24/7. So you can always go through the archives and find things you want to learn about. If your dog already has problems, we have natural solutions for things like bad breath. I had a consultation today with one that been having all kinds of dental problems, and even though she's been doing it right, because these things can be caused by, like I said, different injections and different drugs and things of that nature, we have to be proactive. In fact, it's funny, one of the things that we use at Pet Health Cafe and at My Paleo Pet in Pompano Beach to help break down that tartar is Manuka honey. You just spread it on the base of the teeth, and it turns to putty, and you can wipe it off with a gauze. You don't have to have a dental. But so, if they come by My Paleo Pet, the store in Pompano Beach, they can chat with me, have a consultation if they need it. They can also go online to mypaleopet.com and order products directly there. The easiest, quickest way to get them. You can place for in-store pickup and or for shipping nationwide. Come by and see us in the new store. It's really, really outstanding. It's going to be a bigger place. We've added the educational center to it. So we're going to be doing more, events there with speakers and people that are in the know as well. Of course, they can't disagree with me because otherwise I throw them out. But, we're trying to find and put together the services that go along with it. Things like chiropractic and detoxification and things of that nature. So, they can reach me at Pet Guru on Facebook, Pet Health Guru on Facebook, and we're all over social media as well. And you're going to see a lot more of us on that in the very near future. We're expanding those programs as well.
Love it. And once again, a wealth of information, some great stories from the Pet Health Guru. Stay tuned, people, because we will be right back with a couple commercials of some festival giveaways we're doing, and then some powerful business strategies coming up right here on the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Louder Than Life, North America's loudest rock and metal festival, returns to Louisville this September with My Chemical Romance, Iron Maiden, Tool, Limp Bizkit, plus Pantera, Pierce the Veil, Gojira, Papa Roach, and more. Nearly 200 bands across 7 stages. Louder Than Life at the Kentucky Expo Center, September 17th through 20th. Passes are on sale now, starting at only $1 down at louderthanlifefestival.com. Aftershock, the West Coast's largest rock, metal, and punk festival, returns to Sacramento this October with My Chemical Romance, Tool, Limp Bizkit, Pierce the Veil, plus Suicide Boys, Queens of the Stone Age, The Offspring, A Day to Remember, Wu-Tang Clan, and more. Aftershock, October 1st through 4th. Passes are on sale now, starting at only $1 down at aftershockfestival.com.
You're listening to The Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Adventures of Pipeman here on W4CY Radio, and we're back with Michael Barbarita, our Next Step CFO, powerful business strategy expert here on the Positively Pipeman segment. And we're going to talk this week about the 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. 13 weeks, Michael, is a pretty magical number because they use that in a lot of industries as kind of a benchmark of things. So I think it's interesting we're talking about that today.
Yeah, it represents a quarter of the year. So, but what I find is that business owners with cash flow problems, what the 13-week cash flow forecast does is it gives them real perspective on where the weaknesses are, what they need to do to improve the forecast if the forecast shows negative cash flow. So it's a great tool that I use with my clients because they don't know what's causing the cash flow problem, but when they see it laid out over a 13-week period and they see the line items of inflows and outflows, they really have a good perspective, and the timing of those inflows and outflows, they really have a good perspective as to what needs to be done to alleviate that cash flow problem. So it might not just be receivables; it might be paying certain bills too early. A lot of business owners pay bills too early. A lot of business owners, they they judge everything by their bank account. That by what's in the bank, and so let me pay these bills, and so I can forget about those bills. But when they're not due yet, and it causes cash flow problems, and they don't realize it.
Yeah, I want to expand on that a little bit because there's a lot of business people that would think it was a good thing to pay their bills early.
Well, only if you get a discount. It's good then, but other than that, it's not good at all. Paying them on time is good, but not early. Early doesn't do anything for your credit score or anything like that, and it doesn't. But it reduces your cash flow, and things happen. All of a sudden you want to pay for something and you don't have the money because you paid some bill or a group of invoice bills too early. And so it destroys the purpose of having the cash flow to begin with if you can't do what you need to do. So paying bills too early is a big problem, but also, just general cash flow problems when you see it on a 13-week, and 13 weeks is just one spreadsheet. It's one look. And every inflow and outflow is itemized. And when you see that, you get perspective. I just did it for a client recently. As a matter of fact, I think it was 3 weeks ago, where they were having a cash flow problem. We did a 13-week forecast, and he isolated the areas that he can shift and move and improve. And all of a sudden, his 13-week forecast is now positive. And so now he just has to manage his inflows to make sure that the inflows, because the expenses are usually good and predictable, but then he just has to manage the inflows to make sure that those are hitting. And when they're not, he has to get on the phone and call for more, call his receivable list. But the bottom line is that he really understands and knows how his cash flow is flowing and how to make it positive. I mean, he literally manipulated. He said, I don't have to pay this now. I don't have to pay that now. I don't have to pay this now. I move this over there. And then he said, there's a customer that takes advantage of discount of his 2% early pay discounts. And so he moved some of that receivable more present to more near term. And all of a sudden, his cash flow is negative. Now it's forecasted to be positive. And since that time, he's had a positive cash flow. It's been about 3 weeks. And so, wow. but because he could see it, it's all about perspective. Yeah. Lots of times business owners, I got a cash flow problem and they don't know what's causing it, where the leak is, how to fix it. Sometimes when you just see it, and that's why I say that the 13-week cash flow forecast is like the windshield, of an auto. You can see what's ahead, and you can actually see it, and you can avoid it or add to it or amend it, and it makes a huge difference. And business owners don't understand that. They think it's just all you're going to show me is doom and gloom, is what they think, and sometimes that's the case. But there are ways to manage that doom and gloom.
So my question is this: what about for those people that think to themselves, well, yes, you're right, Michael, but also in the same token, I paid a bill early because I'm more afraid that what if when the bill comes, then I don't have the money. At least I know the bills are paid. So if I do, if I have something come up that could cause a cash flow problem, well, if I paid for that for the cash, then I wouldn't have the money to pay the bill. What would you say to those people?
Well, a couple things. Number one, the 13-week cash flow forecast would show you that you do have the ability to pay it or you don't. That's number one.
Yeah.
And then if something happens where something unexpected happens, which always happens in business. So if something unexpected happens, you can't pay it. You pick up the phone, you call the vendor and said, look, I have this emergency that came up. Can I have a few more days? When I was in the ski business, Dean, if I ran into a cash flow problem, I would call up the vendors and say, can you give me an extra 30 days? And because I've always paid on time, A, B, they trusted me. Why did they trust me? They trusted me because every year at the annual trade show, I met with them. They knew who I was. They saw my face. I walked in with financial statements so that they were familiar with me. When you develop those kinds of relationship with vendors, you can ask for just about anything. That's important.
Yeah.
So that's how I address that situation. You've got to really develop good relationships with your suppliers. Some people just pay the supplier, don't develop a relationship with them, and then call up and ask for 30 days more, and the vendor's skeptical. But you know what? You take it anyway. If the vendor's skeptical, the vendor says no, you just take it anyway. Take the time and just keep them posted. And maybe you can pay it the next week and not take an extra 30 days. Maybe you can pay it the week after. Businesses run that way. It just does. Cash flow, most negative cash flow can be managed with the 13-week rolling forecast. And by the way, it accounts for emergencies. If an emergency comes up, there's ways to manage that.
And to your point, like if you don't develop a relationship with them because you're somebody that maybe is late with your bills, so you kind of avoid, you're not going to have those times where they're going to, bend the rules for you.
Right. That's right.
I also find,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I also find it interesting that people get like a 0 interest for 6 months, 0 interest for 12 months, and they pay it off early. Why? You're not paying other people's money, man.
Right.
You're not paying anything for it.
You can invest that money. You can do it a lot of things. Invest in your business, that is. You can do a lot of things with that money. A lot of things. Yeah,
exactly.
That's another thing that business owners don't understand. They don't understand the opportunity cost of money.
Absolutely.
And having cash flow.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, why do you bother getting a loan if you're going to pay it off early and you didn't really need the money?
Very true. Very true.
So tell everybody how they can reach out to you to have some, conversations more about this subject and how you can help their business to have some powerful business strategies.
Excellent. Glad to do that. So if you go to nextstepcfo.net, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see this diagnostic that you can click on. And what it'll do is within 5 minutes, it will identify 3 strategies that your competition isn't doing based on the answers that very customized to your business based on the answers that you give it. And the financial impact of each strategy, some information on the strategy and how to implement it. And I think it's a terrific diagnostic for business owners who are really stuck as to how to implement something that the competition isn't. Nextstepcfo.net, right-hand corner, orange button.
Nice. Well, thanks again for your wealth of information for our businesses out there. And hopefully they got some powerful business strategies for their powerful business.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks for having me.
You got it. And that's it for the Adventures of Pipeman today. But next week, we will have our resident expert, Michael Barbarita, back on, and we will talk about position of market dominance as employer of choice. So don't stay tuned, but come back.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.